Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome along to the wilds of Suffolk. I'm out here yet again doing what I do, walking along in beautiful locations in the freezing cold, giving you my thoughts and opinions on things that are happening in the world and the public consciousness. If it's your first time here, welcome. Happy that you've joined me. Thank you very much. And for all you returning subscribers, or 1,303 of you, 1,300 people are joining me for this lunacy. Welcome back. Or welcome along. I'm honoured and humbled that you joined me for this walk, so thank you one and all. So today, by the title, I know this video is going to upset some people. That's cool. That's what I do. Not deliberately, of course, but it's going to be a trigger for people because it's associated with Trump. Now, the people who like Trump, maybe you'll enjoy it. The people who don't like Trump, you definitely won't. But I'm going to explain my perspective on what I think is going on with this whole Trump card business that's just come out. I know that there's a lot of people in the 17th letter of the alphabet's community that were very upset about this, especially a lot of the crew over at the Red Pill Project, family over there. Hello, everyone. And Josh did a video about it as well. He wasn't overly happy, but I think he's looking at it slightly wrong. This is my perspective. Everyone's entitled to their perspective, of course. But I'm going to give you my take on it, why I think what's just happened is a major turning point in what's going on in the world and what I think is going to happen from here. Okay? So, let's start out with, just in case you haven't heard or you're not following me on Telegram. It's like there's a few people who are not following me anymore on Telegram anymore because I posted this, or how dare I say something about Trump. Okay, so Trump made a truth, I think it was, over at True Social, that said, major announcement coming on December 15th. Okay, major announcement coming. Now, there was wild speculation about what was going to happen on December 15th, whether he was going to be, I'm running for Speaker of the House, or if he was going to be talking about elections or whatever it was. People had this idea in their mind of what they thought that he was going to say, or what he should say, which is, of course, you can't. You have to talk about those things that you stick in you, because if you're not going to talk about that, then you're not on our side, right? Everyone had their own opinion about what it was going to be, and I had no idea because, hey, anything can happen, right? Things are crazy. Like, if you've been on this journey with me for any period of time at all, you've heard me say it. Things are going to get absolutely off the scale crazy. And you're not going to believe it. There's going to be shit that happens and you're just going to be like, what? How does that relate to anything? Now, Trump did this truth or whatever it was, and he put it out there, and it was like, I'm making a major announcement on December 15th. December 15th came, and what was it? He released a trading card set. That's really how he promoted it. A trading card set of pictures of Trump doing different things. Okay? Now, this has upset a lot of people. Like, fucking trading cards? Who wants a fucking trading card? People can't pay their mortgages. They're out in the streets. The people are dying all over the place. You're releasing fucking trading cards? Yeah. Now, there's so many things that tie into this. I wanted to do this video because it's like, I see a broad spectrum of information. I look at a bunch of different things, and this is how I've come to my conclusion of what I think it means. After this video, you can decide what you think it means. You can think I'm full of shit. But I don't mind. I'm injecting my perspective of what I think this means into the conversation. Okay? Now, he released what he described as like baseball trading cards, but digital versions. Now, what are they called? NFTs. Okay? NFTs. Now, everything associated with this, how it was done, was absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. I'll get into this soon, but it was a brilliant, genius marketing move. Oh, Trump's only doing it for the money because he's got such a big ego. Now, let's talk let's talk the ego thing first, okay? Let's talk the ego thing first. Now, I don't know who is going to see this. I don't know what your position is in life. I don't know what you've achieved in your life. I don't know anything. Well, there's a few people I know about you, but most of you, I don't know anything about you. You're wonderful people. I know that because some of the points that that I talk about on this channel, you agree with, some don't. Cool, but you're willing to take part in the conversation, okay? Even if you disagree, which is what is key right now, okay? Our perspective has been shaped by outside influences, let's put it that way, the media, the politics, and yeah, blah, 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 blah. We all believe what we believe because outside influences have made us believe the things that we believe, right? Okay. Now, you've also heard the saying, all publicity is good publicity. We're going to get to the publicity thing in just a second, but we're going to start with ego, okay? Now, it's easy to look at someone like Trump and say everything he does, he only wanted to be president because he's got a massive ego. Okay, fair enough. Or he is just doing it to make money. Okay, fair enough, he's a businessman. Yep, that's what businessmen do. Now, ego, if you see fighters, like boxers or MMA fighters, or, you know, the people who are going into successful business people, entrepreneurs, you know, people at the top of their game, people that have achieved something in their life, sports people, you know, people at the top of their game have, you could call it an inflated ego. They have a high opinion of themselves because they have to. They have to, in order to achieve anything in this life, you have to believe in yourself enough to be able to do it. Some people would call that arrogance. Some people would call it a massive ego. Whatever it is that you want to call it, it doesn't really matter. It's your perception of how things are. Now, I've run kitchens all over the world for 35 years. I've done some really amazing food. I've done some absolute garbage, you know, but I have absolute belief in myself and being able to do what I do, no matter where I go, no matter what environment I'm in, I can do it. You can call that arrogance or an ego or whatever you want to call it, but without that, I couldn't do it. I couldn't rise to the top of my game, you know. Look at Gordon Ramsay. Would you say he's got an ego? Well, of course he does. He has to. You know, the top of their game have to have that belief in themselves, an ego or arrogance about it themselves, because if you didn't, you couldn't get to the top. Okay? So it is part of success to have that belief in yourself to be able to achieve it. Okay? First, that's the first cab off the rank. So you think whatever you want about Donald Trump, doesn't matter. You think he's a good guy, you think he's a piece of shit. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter. Now, Jesus, so many threads to tie together. All right, so ego, okay, he's doing it for his ego, whatever. If you think that, great. Why do you think that? Why do you believe that? Because somebody else told you to believe it? Okay. Oh, everything I've seen about Donald Trump. Okay. If you go to see a movie, when you go and see a movie, what do? It's called suspension of disbelief. So you go into the movie and anything could happen. The person could be flying across the screen, which we know is impossible, right? But you believe it in the movie because it's part of the story. And suspension of disbelief. You suspend your disbelief going into the movie because you know what, I'm watching a movie. Anything could happen. Monster could crawl out from the thing. You know, someone could skydive down. And, whatever it is, suspension of disbelief. Now, the suspension of disbelief going into anything is vital, and especially when you're walking around in this reality, if that's what we're calling it today, you have to be able to take in all the information that you're confronted with and be able to suspend your disbelief if new information comes to you that makes what you believe to be outdated. Okay? All right. So just suspend your disbelief for a minute, take all this in, and then decide what you believe after I'm done. All right? Now, I've been banging on about the 17th letter of the alphabet, the letter I'm not allowed to say. Okay, count them up, 17, yeah? 17th letter of the alphabet. Posted 2018, I think it was. At what stage in the game do you play the trump card? Okay? At what stage in the game do you play the trump card? 17th letter of the alphabet. Okay, that was in 2018, March, I think. Don't quote me on that. Somewhere around that, okay? Exactly 1,700 days later than that post that said, trump card's coming, trump cards are brought out. Literally, trump card. It's a trump card. Collect trump cards. Collect trumpcards.com. Right? Not a promotion. They're all sold out anyway, so you can't get it. But anyway, 1,700 days later, 17th letter of the alphabet said that. 1,700 days later, they release trump cards. Okay? Now, what's a trump card, I might hear you say? Not in relation to the actual thing, the card itself, but what is a trump card? Now, I looked it up in Cambridge, the Cambridge Dictionary, Oxford, Cambridge, doesn't really matter. They all say the same thing. It is. The trump card is something that gives you a winning advantage because you have information that no one else does. Okay? Now, there's lots of things that are tied up with this. Okay, let's talk about NFTs just for a second. Anybody who's involved in crypto, NFTs, I've been talking about the digitization of our society is happening right before our eyes, okay? Whether you realize it, whether you realize the importance of what NFTs are, what they do, what they represent, is irrelevant, okay? We are moving very, very rapidly into a digital society, into a digital economy, whether you like it or not. And I'm not talking about CBDCs, I'm talking about digital economy. Everything is going to be digitized. The stock market is being digitized, and each of those stocks, rather than getting a stock certificate, which is the way that things are currently done, you will get an NFT, which is a digital representation of ownership. Tokenization, NFTs are go hand in hand together. It is the digitization of our society. Now, Trump, for better or for worse, or like him or hate him, has a massive, massive, massive audience. Hundreds of millions of people listen to what this guy says or look at it. Even if they don't like him, they're still looking. Now, when Trump released this NFT collection, 45,000 of them, they sold within 12 hours, okay? Now, what happened? The media went absolutely ballistic. Oh, Trump's major announcements. His ego. He's releasing pictures of himself as NFTs. The whole world found out about NFTs. Boom. The whole world found out about NFTs. So what was he doing by releasing an NFT collection while people are starving, people are dying? Why would he release an NFT collection? Because you have to let people know that the digital world is right on their doorstep. And if you've never heard of NFTs, you've never heard of digital wallets, or, well, I don't understand all that. People who follow the guy want to be part of this. The media latched onto it. Oh, there's a major announcement. All he's doing is releasing pictures of himself as NFTs. They all talked about it. Every single media outlet talked about it, talked about him, talked about NFTs, and talked about the digital economy. No publicity, all publicity is good publicity, right? Now, the genius move, and this is why it's genius and people don't see it, right? Trump can't be seen to be talking about he can't be seen to be meddling in politics because he's not in it, right? Right? Now, he releases this NFT collection. People go ballistic. How dare you do that? You're not helping anyone. People are dying. You didn't even talk about the fucking jabs. Well, who are you? You're a piece of shit. All the usual garbage. Oh, he looks so gay in the pictures. Are you using gay as a slur? Really? So, then he comes out and releases a speech an hour later, I think it was. Now, there's talk about, he only released the speech because the NFT collection went over so badly that they had to bring out something else. That's not correct. Listen to the speech. Listen to the words that he said. Listen to what he was talking about. What was he talking about? He's talking about your ability to speak freely, okay? and censorship. But what was the whole speech about? A digital Bill of Rights. Digital. So online Bill of Rights. After he's talked about and released a digital NFT collection. And he's talking about a digital Bill of Rights where he's talking about taking down people within the intelligence agencies, the media, blah, 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 all the people who are censoring people online, digital, remember. And he does this speech about that digital Bill of Rights. Okay, after he's released an NFT, a digital NFT collection. You're sort of starting to tie the pieces together here. Okay, now, during the speech, twice, not once, twice, he said, immediately following my inauguration, no talk of an election, no talk about, waiting till 2024. That was never mentioned. It was twice he said, immediately following my inauguration. Now, you've got to tie a bunch of threads together here to make this to be able to bring it into comprehension. Now, there's a couple of brothers, I think 2 or 3, called the Brunson brothers. They have a case that's pending in the Supreme Court. It was in a lower court. A clerk from the Supreme Court got in touch with them and asked them if they could bring the case to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court is charging Biden, Harris, and the whole of Congress, I think, that okayed the election in 2020, and is charging them with a dereliction of duty because they never investigated the claims of what could be seen as the F word, F-R-A-U-D. I'm not allowed to say the word, of course, to do with elections because it's all free and fair, right? So these brothers, the Brunson brothers, are bringing this case, and it's now being heard by the Supreme Court. Trump card, anyone? So it gives you an advantage, especially if you know something that no one else does. Okay? Now, there's so many threads with this. I've spoken about it many times before. Every country is releasing a digital version of their money. Okay? They're talking about it, CBDCs. The first batch of CBDCs will be released, and people will reject it and it will fail. But we are going to digital money. We'll have some cash for a period until people get used to the whole digital and the security and how it all works. You know, most people are scared by it because they don't understand it. I understand that. But the reality is we're going to a digital economy. Now, if you want to prepare people for that, how do you do it? How do you do it? You start dropping some little nuggets into the public psyche. And if the media is talking about it everywhere, then people know about it. What's that called? Oh, inception, right? Where you plant the seed. So all the people that missed out on getting their digital NFTs, one, they're going to be crying themselves to sleep in a little while when the prices go crazy when Trump gets back into power, once he's inaugurated again. The people that want to rip on that, they don't understand the bigger picture of our transformation of our economy and our digital economy going forward. The only way that you can bring this to society is to inject it in slowly. Just a little dropper there, and make sure that the word's getting out. So if you want to introduce people to digital wallets or NFTs, or what is an NFT? That's how you do it. You have all the media report on it. So when he comes out and says, following my inauguration, because the Supreme Court's hearing that case for the Brunson brothers, I think on the 6th of January. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's around that date. And there's what's happening in Arizona. Kerry Lake is challenging the election in Arizona in the courts, and she has massive amounts of evidence. So if the evidence is proven in Arizona that there was strange happenings, and obviously Arizona was one of the key states that swung the other way in 2016. Oh, sorry, 2020. Sorry, getting all these dates mixed up. Arizona was one of those places in 2020 that made Trump lose. So if it can be shown and proven in Arizona that things weren't on the up and up, where you have the woman who is the head of the elections is also running for governor. Seems a bit strange. If it's proven there that there are irregularities, let's put it that way, then that can be used as a base for the case going forward for the 2020 to be questioned again. Okay? Now, the 17th letter of the alphabet also mentioned watch the water. Carrie Lake. Oh, it's a coincidence, Chris. But how many coincidences before it's mathematically impossible? 1,700 days from trump cards coming to when they come. 1,700 days. Coincidence, Chris. Pure coincidence. Yeah, okay. Now, there's just so much. There's so much. Okay. I'm going to sort of simplify an idea, a concept, something for you to chew on as well. Bonds, treasury bonds in particular, the bond market. Now, you might have heard of the yield curve inversion, okay? I'm going to break that down as simply as I possibly can for you and why it's so bad and what it means for our global economy. What's going on? Okay. I've said it many, many times before and I'll say it again. When we get to the end of a financial system, we went on to the petrodollar 50 odd years ago, 2% inflation over 50 years, 100% inflation, the money's worthless, okay? The money, the fiat money that you call money, the American dollar, the petrodollar, the fiat money that they create, just printed out of their ass. I mean, it's not real. It's not backed by anything since 1971, 14th of August. Okay, when the American dollar got taken off the gold standard. So, people generally, when shit goes bad with the economy, people go and buy into bonds, into treasury bonds, because traditionally it's a safe haven. That and gold, obviously, and the central banks of the world have been buying tons of gold each month. But no, don't buy that. Remember, don't buy the things that are worthwhile for you. Oh, gold's a barbarous relic, they said. Okay? Now, the yield curve inversion. Okay, so if I'm going to invest some money in a fund over 30 years, okay, my interest rate has to represent the time that I'm not going to have that money. So usually over a 30-year period, you get a higher interest rate than you would in a short period for maybe 1 year, for instance. Okay? Now, what has happened worldwide in every country? Okay? Worldwide, the yield curve has inverted. So you're actually getting a higher interest rate, 5% at the moment, on a 1-year treasury bond. So that says they don't hold out much hope. And no one wants to put their money into a 30-year bond because they're worried that they're not going to get their money back. So I've said it before. I posted something on Facebook a while ago and said there's trouble in the bond market. A friend of mine who worked in the bond market said, no, there's not, you're an idiot. And anybody who told you that is an idiot. And I was like, well, here's The Economist. Here's Bloomberg. Is that, where am I supposed to look? You tell me. Now, with this yield curve inversion, it shows that things are not going well in the economy, in the financial system, as it stands right now. Massive liquidity crisis, they say. Now, liquidity, what's liquidity? Okay, let's just say I'm a multi-millionaire, right? I'm a multi-millionaire, not yet, soon. I'm a multi-millionaire and I have something I have to pay. Maybe it's a margin call, let's say. Margin call is if you have, I'm not even going to explain that, but go and look it up. All right, so you've got a margin call on some stocks or some options that you own, margin call. So you have to be able to pay the money for that margin call. So you're down, you have to pay £1 million. I'm a multi-millionaire, remember? I got multi-millions. But you can be a multi-millionaire on paper and own millions of pounds worth of property or gold or silver or whatever it is that you own that makes you a multi-millionaire, but you might not have any cash. The cash, fiat, whatever it is liquidity. Now, you have these massive corporations that have their assets that they manage, the assets that they own, they're not liquid because they couldn't sell them in a hurry to be able to pay that money out. So they're illiquid. Now the liquidity comes from, there's certain things with the central banks of each country where they give out money to corporations overnight lending, there's another name for it, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Where they give short-term loans overnight, repo market, so they can do a short-term loan overnight with a higher interest rate. But it's got to the point now where none of the banks want to lend each other money because they're worried that they're not going to get it back. Massive corporations and banks, Deutsche Bank is in trouble. A lot of big banks and big corporations are in trouble because they're illiquid. There's a liquidity crisis. So when you have a liquidity crisis big enough, no one's got any liquidity, the whole system freezes up because no one wants to lend any money to anybody else, and they're not willing to take other countries' money or other, things that people might own, because what's it worth if I can't sell it? If there's no liquidity, if I can't offload it to be able to pay my bills, to be able to pay my staff, whatever it is, there's no point having it. So this is what we're seeing. There is a liquidity crisis. Everything is happening at the same time. The war they're trying to escalate in Ukraine, and I've talked about this many times, when you get to the end of a financial system, they always start a war to hide it behind. You can't have the financial system just collapse out in the open because, well, that would show that the financial system is shit. And you're going to completely lose the trust of the people that use your fiat money, your garbage every day. If they lose trust in that, it's the end of the system. Because it's a big con game. It's a giant con, along with everything else that's been happening, especially the last 3 years with this. Con. Anyway, we're off the subject. The point being, we are at the point where this financial system, this economy as we know it, supply chains are breaking down, everything's happening, people are being put out of work, newspapers are going out of business because, well, there's no advertising money because no one believes them anymore. We've got to a point now where everything is breaking. We already have a digital economy ready in the background to bring forward, but people have to be introduced to it and take the fear of it first away before you can introduce it. And people have to understand, what's an NFT? Oh, that's what it is. Okay, well, I get that. So, look, the whole point of doing this video is I bought one of these cards. Why? Because it's a piece of history. And pieces of history are a good investment. I remember in my last video I talked about investment, psychological, if you're investing your time, your energy, your skill set, your knowledge, money, if you're investing it in places that is going to better our society, then you should do it. Now, you can sit there and say, but you're supporting a billionaire, but it doesn't matter. What I'm going to use my investments for is for the betterment of society. So you can think whatever you want of me, you can think whatever you want of him, you can think whatever you want of the whole process of how this came about and what it's all about, because your perspective is limited by the information that you've taken in. And so many people have this idea that I know everything. I don't claim to know anything. I'm just a guy who walks in the forest and comes out here and talks. So you can take it, what I say is reality, you can take it as bullshit. I lose nothing, I gain nothing. I'm not trying to sell you something, I'm trying to say this is how I see the world. And then you get to decide how you see it. But see it, look at a vast different range of opinions about subjects before you make up your own mind. Because you're being manipulated along the way, and your thoughts, how you think things should go. Like, I thought things should have been completely different by now. I thought we'd be in a completely different place, but we're not. And do I put all that blame on somebody else and go, well, he hasn't done that thing. What have you done? What have you done? Have you invested your time? Have you invested your energy? Have you invested your money? What have you done that's making such a big difference that you're ready to criticize somebody else for what they've done? A different take on it. Now, things are moving quickly, and I want everyone to be prepared. That's why I do these videos. I come out here and I talk about the stuff that I see in hopes that I can share that message and people can take it for what they want, take what they want from this, But I put out this idea, this concept, this message. Look at things a bit more deeply, a bit more broadly, a bit more information before you come to an opinion, because as you can see about how things are working out, it's not always what you think. Oh yeah, but people are dying from this thing. What can I say? We all know that. And you want one guy to fix it. And if he doesn't fix it, he's a bad person. What else did he say in the speech? Oh, that's right. He said, we're going to take down these people that are stopping the share of information about elections and health matters. So you remember back in the day, the censorship started in 2020 with hydroxychloroquine. Do you remember that? That's medical. That's medical. He was trying to share that information. And the media, the intelligence agencies, the politicians stopped the sharing of that information that could have helped people. Is it his fault? So, the point of this whole message is stop, think, consider that it might not be the way that you think it's going to be, and what information is going to be released and how it's going to be released. Look at what's happening at Twitter. Look what's happening at Twitter. Everything's being exposed. Everything and everyone. Oh, but that doesn't mean anything. You know, Elon's a bad person because he wants to put chips in everyone's brain. I mean, come on. Nothing is what it seems. But as the letter of the alphabet says, many, many times, everything has meaning. So, if everything has meaning and you don't understand all the meanings, then you're going to make poor decisions. So take a step back, take a breath, think about it. It might not be what I think, but it is what it is. And why is it that way? Let's question it and find out. So, go out to the world. Do good and be good, and you can change the way, you can change the world with the way that you talk, the way that you think, the way that you interact with people. If some people need a beat down, I'm not talking physically, if some people need to be talked to in a stern way to make them stop their course of action, sometimes you have to do that. So criticize away, but think about what you're posting and think about what you're putting out there and thinking about what you're sharing and think about how you're thinking about it, because that's being influenced from the outside. Love you all. Thank you so much for being here, one and all. It's bloody cold. I'm going back inside now. I'm going to go and get warmed up before I go back to work this evening. Thank you for joining me. Love you all. Thank you so much again, and I shall look forward to seeing you real soon. Ciao for now.